The envelope sat on my passenger seat like a loaded gun. Inside was 5 years of receipts, invoices, and one hell of a wake-up call for my mother-in-law. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It started with a text message at 6:47 a.m. on what should have been the happiest day of my life, my son Jake's graduation day. I had spent the last 3 months planning everything perfectly. The celebration dinner reservation at Marcello's, the nicest Italian restaurant in town. The custom cake with Harvard's crimson and white colors. Even the boutonniere that matched his cap and gown. I'd saved $847 for this day, putting aside $20 here, $50 there, sometimes skipping lunch to make the numbers work. As a freelance event planner, my income wasn't exactly stable, but Jake deserved this. He'd worked so hard. Valedictorian. Full scholarship to Harvard, my boy was going places. The text was from Patricia, my mother-in-law. Emma, I won't be wearing the corsage you bought. Diane found me a better one. Also, we'll be sitting with her family at the ceremony. Save your feelings, this isn't about you. I stared at my phone, my coffee going cold in my hand. This isn't about me. She was right about that. It was about Jake. It had always been about Jake. 5 years ago, when my husband Michael died in a car accident, Patricia had been devastated. We both were. Michael was her only son, and he'd been my everything. We'd met when I was 28, both of us on our second chance at love. I had Jake from my first marriage, and Michael had loved him like his own from day one. That's my son, he'd tell people, his hand proud on Jake's shoulder. Smart as a whip and twice as kind. After Michael died, Patricia had nobody. Diane, Michael's sister, lived 3 states away with her own family. So I stepped up. I helped Patricia with her bills when her fixed income wasn't enough. I co-signed on her mortgage refinance when the bank wouldn't approve her a loan. I invited her to every one of Jake's achievements, every birthday, every milestone. And for 5 years, I watched her slowly erase Jake from the family narrative. It started small. At Michael's funeral, the photo boards featured Michael's childhood, his wedding to his first wife, and pictures of Diane's kids, Tyler and Madison. There wasn't a single photo of Michael with Jake, even though they'd had 7 beautiful years together. I couldn't find any good ones, Patricia had said when I asked, her eyes not quite meeting mine. Then came the holidays. That first Christmas, Patricia had handed out gifts. Tyler got a new bike, Madison got an iPad, Jake got a $20 gift card to Target. I'm on a budget, Patricia explained, but I'd seen the receipt for Tyler's bike, $340. I let it go. Grief makes people act strangely, I told myself. She'll come around. She didn't. Last year, when Jake made the honor roll for the 8th semester in a row, I texted Patricia a photo of his report card. She responded 3 days later with, "That's nice." When Tyler made JV basketball, she called everyone she knew and posted about it on Facebook 17 times in 1 week. So proud of my grandson. The posts screamed, each with a dozen photos and heart emojis. I'd scroll past them with my jaw clenched, Jake doing homework at the kitchen table beside me, pretending not to notice. "Mom," he'd said once, quietly, "you don't have to make her like me." "She does like you," I'd lied. And we both knew it. But I kept trying, kept inviting her, kept including her, kept hoping. 2 months before graduation, Jake came home with his acceptance letter to Harvard. Full ride. Not just any scholarship, the whole thing. Tuition, room, board, books, everything. I'd cried. Actually sobbed into his shoulder while he laughed and hugged me back. "We did it, Mom. You did it, baby. You did this." I'd called Patricia immediately, hands shaking with joy. "That's wonderful," she'd said, her voice flat. "I have to go, Emma. Diane's calling." She didn't call back, didn't send a card, didn't acknowledge it again. 3 weeks later, Madison got accepted to community college. Patricia threw her a party, invited 40 people, posted 63 photos on Facebook, called me to ask if I could make the sheet cake since I was so good at that sort of thing. I made the cake, smiled through the party, watched Patricia beam with pride over a community college acceptance while she'd barely blinked at Harvard. Jake had stayed home that day, said he had homework. We both knew better. That was when something shifted in me. Not anger yet, something quieter. A door closing softly in my chest. I started keeping records. Every time I paid for Patricia's car insurance because she just couldn't manage it this month. Every house repair I funded. Every medical bill I helped with. The property tax I covered when she called in tears. The numbers were staggering. In 5 years, I'd given her $52,347. $52,347. Money I could have put toward Jake's future. Money I'd earned planning weddings and baby showers and anniversary parties while Jake did his homework in coffee shop corners, waiting for me to finish. I kept planning Patricia's inclusion in our lives, kept sending her Jake's achievements, kept trying. And she kept choosing Diane's kids. The week before graduation, Patricia called with a problem. Her dishwasher had broken. Could I help with the replacement? How much? I asked, my pen ready. $650 for the model I need. I closed my eyes. I'll transfer it tomorrow. You're a godsend, Emma. I don't know what I'd do without you. I wanted to ask if she'd be coming to Jake's graduation rehearsal that Thursday. Wanted to remind her that he was giving a speech as valedictorian, that he'd love for her to be there. But I didn't. Because that same morning, I'd seen her Facebook post. She was driving to Madison's dance recital, 3 hours away, the same day as Jake's rehearsal. The rehearsal was beautiful. Jake's speech was about resilience and second chances and the people who believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. He looked right at me during the last line. None of us get here alone. I'm here because someone refused to let me fail. I wasn't the only one crying. Patricia posted 12 photos from Madison's recital that night. Graduation morning, I woke up to that text about the corsage. I sat in my kitchen, looking at the message, and I made a decision. I called my lawyer. Robert, it's Emma Chen. I need you to draft something for me. Today. Emma, it's Saturday. Jake's graduation is this afternoon. I know. That's why it needs to be today. I explained what I needed. There was a long pause. Are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything. Give me 2 hours. I spent those 2 hours doing my makeup, helping Jake with his tie, and transferring the last of my savings into his college fund. Every penny I'd been saving for his dorm room, his laptop, his books. He'd need them in Boston. We wouldn't be staying in this town much longer anyway. The ceremony was perfect. Jake's speech brought down the house. He talked about his father, about perseverance, about choosing your own family. When he walked across that stage to accept his diploma, I stood and cheered until my voice gave out. Patricia sat with Diane's family, 6 rows behind me. She wore the corsage Diane had bought her, pale pink roses that didn't match anything. She clapped politely when Jake's name was called. Nothing more. After the ceremony, I'd reserved the private room at Marcello's for 30 people. Jake's teachers, his friends, his track coach, our neighbors, people who'd actually shown up for him over the years. I'd invited Patricia too. Of course I had. She arrived 20 minutes late, Diane and her family in tow. Tyler was glued to his phone. Madison was complaining about the music. Diane immediately asked if they could move tables because they needed more space. I seated them, smiled, played the gracious host. Jake gave a toast, thanking everyone for coming, for supporting him, for believing in him. Especially my mom, he said, his eyes finding mine across the room. Who never gave up on me, even when things were hard. Who worked 3 jobs some years to make sure I had everything I needed. Who's the strongest person I know? Everyone raised their glasses. Patricia took a sip of her water and checked her phone. That's when I saw it. The Facebook post, uploaded 2 minutes ago. Celebrating Madison's amazing dance solo tonight. So proud of my real granddaughter. Family is everything. My real granddaughter. My hands went steady. That door in my chest didn't just close. It locked. Dessert was being served when it happened. The tiramisu I'd ordered special, Jake's favorite. People were laughing, sharing stories. Jake was beaming, so happy, so proud. Patricia stood up, her wine glass in hand. She wasn't drunk, but she'd had enough to loosen whatever filter she normally maintained. I'd like to say something, she announced. The room quieted. I went still. Michael would have been so proud today, she began, and my stomach dropped. To see his family succeed, to see his legacy continue through Diane's children, through Tyler and Madison. They're doing so well. Madison's going to college in the fall. Tyler's already looking at universities. Real achievements. Real family. She paused, and in that pause, I saw Jake's face across the room, saw the moment he understood what was happening. Let's be honest, Patricia continued, her voice taking on an edge. Blood matters. Real grandchildren matter. My son's actual legacy lives on through his real family, through Diane's kids. Not through. She gestured vaguely in Jake's direction. Well, you understand. The room had gone silent. Someone's fork clattered against a plate. Jake's face had gone pale. Not surprised. Just resigned. Like he'd been waiting for this moment for 5 years and it had finally arrived. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly in the silence. Patricia, I said, my voice perfectly calm. Could you step outside with me for a moment? I have something for you. She blinked, confused by my tone, maybe expecting tears or anger, not this cold, quiet, calm. Emma, I was just being honest. Outside. Now. I walked out of the private room into the restaurant's entryway. Patricia followed, Diane scrambling after her. I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope. Robert had delivered it an hour before the ceremony. Inside was everything I needed. This is for you, I said, handing it to Patricia. She opened it, still looking confused. Diane peered over her shoulder. There were 3 documents inside. The first was an itemized invoice. Every payment I'd made for Patricia over 5 years. Every bill, every repair, every emergency. Every dollar of the $52,347 I'd given her. What is this? Patricia's voice was shaky now. That's what you owe me. What you've taken from Jake's future to fund your comfort. I don't understand. Keep reading. The second document was a notice. The house Patricia lived in. The mortgage I'd co-signed on. I'd bought it. Completely. I'd taken out a loan against my business, called in every favor I had, and purchased the house from the bank. It was mine now. You have 60 days to vacate the property, I said. That's more than generous, considering. Patricia's face had gone white. You can't do this. I have nowhere. You have Diane. Your real family. I'm sure they'll be happy to help. I watched Diane's face pale. Their house was barely big enough for the 4 of them. The third document, I continued, is Jake's acceptance letter to Harvard. Full scholarship. Something you couldn't be bothered to acknowledge. That's what a real grandson achieves, Patricia. That's what happens when someone actually loves and supports a child. My voice cracked on the last word, but I kept going. You called him a stranger in front of a room full of people who've watched him grow up. People who know exactly who he is and what he's worth. You humiliated a 17-year-old boy on the proudest day of his life because he doesn't share your DNA. Emma, I didn't mean... Yes, you did. You've meant it for 5 years. Every ignored achievement. Every forgotten birthday. Every time you chose Tyler and Madison over Jake. Every time you took my money and gave me nothing but contempt in return. I stepped closer, my voice dropping. Michael loved that boy. He chose Jake. He wanted him. And you dishonored your son's memory every single day by treating his child like garbage. Patricia was crying now. Please, I'm sorry. I'll apologize to Jake. Don't you dare say his name. My voice cut like glass. You don't get to say his name anymore. You don't get to come to his life events. You don't get my money, my time, or my forgiveness. I'm his grandmother. No. You were Michael's mother. But you stopped being Jake's grandmother the day you decided blood was more important than love. I turned to walk back inside, then paused. 60 days, Patricia. I suggest you start packing. I walked back into the party. Jake looked up immediately, his eyes searching my face. I crossed the room and hugged him, tight. I'm sorry, I whispered. I should have done that years ago. It's okay, Mom. It's not. But it will be now. The party continued. Patricia and Diane left quietly. Most people pretended not to notice, but Jake's track coach gave me a subtle nod. One of his teachers squeezed my shoulder as she passed. They'd heard everything through the door. That night, after everyone had gone home, Jake and I sat on the couch with leftover cake. Did you really buy her house? He asked. I really did. That's kind of badass, Mom. I laughed. Actually laughed. Your father would have killed me for taking out that loan. Dad would have done it himself if he'd seen how she treated me. He was right. Michael would have. I'm sorry it took me so long to protect you, I said quietly. Jake shook his head. You were trying to keep me connected to Dad's family. I get it. But Mom? He looked at me seriously. I never needed them. I only ever needed you. I hugged him again, this brilliant boy who'd grown up watching his grandmother choose other children over him and somehow still turned into the kindest person I knew. 2 weeks later, Patricia called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Emma, please. Diane can't take me in. Her house is too small. I have nowhere to go. I'm sorry about what I said. I was wrong. Please, can we talk about the house? I deleted it. She called 6 more times. Left messages ranging from apologetic to angry to desperate. I blocked her number. Diane called too. You're being cruel. She's an old woman. She made a mistake. She made 5 years of mistakes, I said. And she only called when she lost her house, not when she hurt her grandson. That tells me everything I need to know. What are we supposed to do with her? You're her real family, I said. Figure it out. I hung up. Jake and I spent the summer packing. I'd gotten 3 new clients in Boston, enough to justify the move. Jake would be at Harvard, and I'd be starting fresh in a city where nobody knew us, nobody had expectations. My business had actually grown after Patricia's meltdown. Turned out several of her friends had been at Marcello's that night. They'd heard everything, and instead of turning against me, they'd been impressed. I wish I had your backbone, one of them told me while booking her daughter's wedding. The way you stood up to Patricia. We've all wanted to tell her off for years. Karma worked in mysterious ways. The day we loaded the moving truck, I drove past Patricia's house one last time. There was a for rent sign in the yard. I'd listed it the week before. A nice young couple with a baby had already put down first and last month's rent. The rental income would go straight into Jake's college fund, every penny. Patricia was living with Diane now. I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that it wasn't going well. Diane's kids resented having to share their space. Diane's husband was frustrated with the crowding. Patricia spent most of her time in their guest room, scrolling through Facebook, looking at photos of the grandson she'd thrown away. Jake had blocked her months ago, hadn't looked back. Do you ever feel bad? He asked me as we crossed the state line into Massachusetts. For what? Taking her house, making her move. I thought about it, really thought about it. No, I said honestly. I feel bad that I let her hurt you for so long. But taking the house? That was just accounting. She took $52,000 from your future. I took back what was mine. She took more than money, Jake said quietly. He was right. She'd taken years, memories, the grandmother he could have had if she'd chosen love over DNA. But we couldn't get those back. All we could do was move forward. Harvard was everything Jake had dreamed of. He thrived there, made friends, joined clubs. I built my business, made a name for myself in Boston's wedding planning scene. We had dinner together every Sunday. Our own tradition. Just us. Sometimes Jake would get friend requests on social media from Tyler or Madison. He'd show me, asking what I thought. They're your cousins, I'd say. It's your choice. He'd decline them every time. They were there too, he'd explain. At all those holidays, all those events. They saw how Grandma Patricia treated me. They never said anything. They're not my family. I'm sorry, baby. Don't be. I'm not. And he wasn't. He was happy, thriving, free. A year after we moved, on Jake's 19th birthday, an envelope arrived at our apartment. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Patricia had found our new address somehow. Inside was a card. Happy birthday, it said, and a check for $5,000. I'm trying to make things right, she'd written. Please forgive me. I miss you. I miss both of you. I was wrong. Love, Grandma. Jake held the check, staring at it. What do you want to do? I asked. He thought for a long moment. Then he tore the check in half. She doesn't get to buy forgiveness, he said. Not after everything. I took the pieces from him and threw them away. Later that day, I sent Patricia a text. The first contact in over a year. Jake doesn't need your money. He never needed your money. He needed his grandmother. You had 5 years to choose him. You chose wrong. Don't contact us again. She tried to call. I blocked the number. She sent emails. I set up a filter. She showed up at my business 6 months later, having apparently tracked down my office address. My assistant called me, confused. "There's an older woman here to see you? Says she's family?" I walked out to the lobby. Patricia looked older, smaller somehow. Her hair had gone completely gray. She looked tired. "Emma, please. Just give me 5 minutes." "No. I'm dying," she said, and I felt nothing. Just that same cold quiet from the restaurant. Stage 4 cancer. I have maybe a year. I want to make peace with Jake before I go. "Then you should have made peace with him when you had time," I said. "When he was 12 and asking why you didn't love him. When he was 15 and stopped asking. When he was 17 and you humiliated him in front of everyone who mattered to him. I know I was wrong. You don't get a deathbed redemption arc, Patricia. Life doesn't work that way. You don't get to abuse a child for years and then show up dying and expect forgiveness. I'm his grandmother. You're a woman who shared DNA with his father. That's all you ever were." I turned to walk back to my office. "Michael would be ashamed of you," she called out, her voice desperate. I stopped, turned back. Michael would be ashamed that his mother spent 5 years destroying his son's relationship with his family, that she took money meant for his child's future and gave nothing but pain in return, that she valued bloodline over love. My voice was steady, calm, factual. Michael loved Jake, truly loved him. He was a better parent in 7 years than you've been in your entire life. And yes, he would be ashamed, but not of me. I walked back inside and closed the door. Patricia stood in my lobby for another 10 minutes before she left. I never saw her again. She died 8 months later. Diane called to tell me. Asked if Jake wanted to come to the funeral. "No," I said simply, and hung up. Jake and I spent that weekend at the beach. We walked along the shore, ate too much ice cream, talked about his classes and his friends and his plans for summer. Neither of us mentioned Patricia. She was gone, but the truth was, she'd been gone for years. We'd just finally stopped pretending otherwise. That night, sitting on our hotel balcony watching the waves, Jake said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For finally choosing me. For standing up. For getting us out. I should have done it sooner." "You did it when you were ready. That's what matters." He was wrong. It mattered that I'd let him suffer for years trying to maintain a relationship with someone who didn't value him. It mattered that I'd prioritized keeping peace over protecting my son. But I'd learned. And I'd made it right. The rental house in our old town still sends me checks every month. That money goes into an investment account with Jake's name on it. By the time he graduates, it'll be enough for a down payment on his first home. Patricia's bitterness bought my son's future. Her cruelty funded his dreams. Sometimes, I think about that day at Marcello's. The look on her face when she realized what she'd done. The panic when she understood what she'd lost. I don't feel guilty. I feel free. And so does Jake. That's all that matters.